The iron gates of the sprawling mansion swung open as the car rolled up the long driveway. The estate stood like a fortress of wealth and power, but inside its walls was a chaos no amount of money seemed able to tame. For months, billionaire Richard Hawthorne had been unable to keep a maid. His 5 children, wild, sharp-tongued, and untamable, sent every single one running before the day was done.
Some lasted hours. A few, only minutes. The last maid left in tears after flour was poured over her head and juice was spilled on her white uniform. Richard shook his head, drowning in work, unable to balance fatherhood with his empire. He loved his children fiercely, but discipline, that was something he'd long since lost grip on. And then she arrived. Her name was Maya Collins. She stepped out of the taxi with a calm smile, carrying nothing but a small suitcase and the quiet confidence of someone who had seen storms before and walked right through them. The butler, Charles, almost pitied her. "Good luck," he muttered under his breath. "You'll need it. None last longer than breakfast." Maya only smiled wider. "Breakfast is my favorite meal." Inside, the house was as loud as a carnival. Laughter mixed with shrieks. Music blasted from upstairs. A basketball bounced against a wall. 5 children ran wild, each in their own world. There was Ethan, the oldest at 15, already taller than most grown men, sarcastic and bitter since his mother's passing. Then came Lily, 13, sharp-eyed and sharp-tongued, quick to test every adult's patience. The twins, Max and Mason, 9 years old, were inseparable troublemakers, forever plotting chaos. And then, little Ava, just 6, sweet but often overlooked, clinging to a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing. They barely looked up when Maya walked in. Ethan smirked. "Another one," he muttered. "Bet she won't last till lunch." Lily folded her arms. "Let's test her." The twins grinned, already whispering schemes. Ava, however, peeked up with wide eyes, hugging her rabbit. Maya placed her bag down, scanned the room, and clapped her hands once. The sound was sharp but not harsh. "All right," she said warmly, "who's hungry?" The children froze. That wasn't the usual start. Normally maids scolded, begged, or ordered them to settle down. Maya walked straight into the kitchen, pulling out pans like she owned the place. Pancakes. Eggs. Bacon. Toast. Or do billionaires' kids prefer caviar in the morning? The twins burst out laughing. Ethan tried to hide his smirk. Lily tilted her head, intrigued. Ava's face lit up. Within minutes, the smell of butter and maple syrup filled the air. The children, for once, sat at the long dining table, watching as Maya flipped pancakes with the skill of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. "Can you make chocolate chip?" Ava whispered. Maya winked. "Sweetheart, I make double chocolate chip. You'll lick the plate clean." By the time breakfast was done, silence filled the dining room, but not the awkward silence of resentment. It was the stunned quiet of children who, for the first time in years, felt cared for in a way they hadn't expected. But then came the test. Max spilled his orange juice deliberately, letting it drip onto the Persian rug. Mason tossed his pancake across the table like a frisbee. Ethan pushed back his chair. "See? Too much for her." Maya didn't flinch. She calmly grabbed a towel, handed it to Max. "Your mess. You clean." Then she turned to Mason, slid another pancake onto his plate. "This one belongs in your stomach, not on the floor. Want syrup?" Mason blinked. No adult had ever handed him responsibility without yelling. Slowly, he nodded. As for Ethan, Maya met his challenging stare with a smile that wasn't patronizing, just steady. "You're the oldest. You set the tone. Whether you like it or not, they'll follow your lead. You want me gone? They'll make sure of it. You want peace? You can have that too. So what'll it be?" For the first time in months, Ethan had no comeback. By lunch, Maya hadn't left. By evening, something impossible had happened. The mansion, once echoing with wild chaos, felt calmer.
But the real challenge came the next day. Richard returned from the city, tie loosened, exhaustion etched into his face. He froze when he stepped inside. His children weren't screaming or fighting. They were in the living room, listening as Maya read from a storybook. Ava sat curled in her lap. The twins leaned against the sofa, wide-eyed. Lily pretended she wasn't interested but didn't leave. Ethan sat at the edge, arms crossed, pretending not to listen, yet he was closer than usual.
Richard blinked in disbelief. What on earth? Maya looked up, calm as ever. Good evening, Mr. Hawthorne. Dinner will be ready in an hour. But for now, she turned back to the book. We're about to see if the dragon eats the knight or lets him pass. The children groaned in protest when Richard interrupted, demanding she keep reading.
It was then Richard realized, this woman was different. Days turned into weeks, and Maya proved herself more than a maid. She was patient when Ethan slammed doors. She was firm when Lily rolled her eyes. She laughed at the twins' mischief but never excused it, always turning their pranks into lessons. She listened to Ava's endless stories about her rabbit as though each word was treasure. But what the children didn't know was that Maya carried her own scars. Years ago, she'd worked as a social worker, dedicated to helping children in broken homes. But one tragic case had shattered her spirit. A little boy she'd fought for was lost to the system. Maya had walked away, heart heavy, unsure if she could bear the weight again. She'd taken smaller jobs, moving city to city, until she found herself here.
She hadn't expected the Hawthorne kids to remind her of why she once fought so hard. One evening, Ethan stormed out after a heated argument with his father. Richard wanted him to focus on academics, to prepare for the family legacy. Ethan, crushed under pressure, had lashed out. He disappeared into the night. Panic swept the house. Richard barked orders, staff scrambled, the younger kids cried.
Maya didn't panic. She grabbed her coat and left quietly, knowing exactly where to find him.
She found Ethan sitting at the basketball court down the street, hood pulled over his head, fists clenched. Don't start, he muttered when she approached. She sat beside him without a word, letting the silence stretch. Finally, she spoke softly. You miss her, don't you? His jaw tightened. Your mother, she continued. You're angry because no one seems to let you just miss her. They want you to move on. Be strong. Be the man. But you're still a boy who lost his mom. That's not weakness. That's grief. For the first time, Ethan's walls cracked. Tears he'd buried for years slipped out. Maya didn't hug him, didn't smother him. She just sat there, steady, letting him finally let go. That night, Ethan returned home not because his father ordered him to, but because Maya made him feel seen. The days that followed shifted everything. The kids no longer schemed to drive her away. Instead, they begged her to stay. Lily, who once snapped at every word, now sought Maya's advice on her sketches. The twins, instead of pranks, asked her to play soccer in the garden. Ava clung to her side like a shadow. And Ethan, once the ringleader of rebellion, looked at her not as another adult to fight, but as someone who understood. One Saturday morning, the five of them gathered in Richard's office, standing in front of their father's desk. She can't leave, Ava blurted out, clutching her rabbit. Yeah, Mason added. She actually makes broccoli taste good. And she doesn't run away when we're annoying, Max piped up. Lily lifted her chin. She listens. Actually listens. Ethan crossed his arms, but his voice was steady. Dad, we need her. More than a maid. More than anything. Richard leaned back in his chair, stunned. He had spent millions trying to buy stability for his children, therapists, tutors, nannies. Yet here stood a woman who had walked in with nothing but kindness, and somehow, she had given them back something priceless.